Sanjay. Sanjay is also part of this space. Yash, who is not here today, is also part of this space. So yeah, Sanjay, you want to talk?
I was trying to search for which page to. You can. Hello, good morning. Thanks for joining all of us. That on a Sunday morning or a lazy Sunday morning, it's difficult. But I know what pulled all of you guys out here. Of course, these two gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. So this particular, you want me to introduce? Yes. So this space is a new experiment that we are trying. Trying multiple things. So underneath what we have started is called as Million Mutinies. Our idea of mutiny is a disruption in the society, and that disruption is a positive disruption. We are trying to enable a dream of a million entrepreneurs having the various discussions, various areas and all that. So we have 8 areas of focus, right from agri-tech, arts, music and culture, books, literature and language, to ed-tech, fintech, medtech, women entrepreneurship and rural entrepreneurship. So these are 8 areas of focus areas. So this initiative is a part of our books, literature and language. So we have taken the franchise of Just Books. But along with Just Books, this is a space for conversations. So any mutiny has to start with a conversation, right? So this is a space for that conversation so that we could start more ideas, exchange of thoughts, exchange of disagreements and agreements so that we can move the society on a positive frame of mind. That has been the concept and the construct behind this. So what the uniqueness of this is that this entire space is going to be run by people with disabilities of various nature. So we are not trying to do any favor to them. We are trying to give them an equal opportunity so that no favors done, no favors asked. Right? So it is basically giving them the opportunity to actually live on their own terms with at par part of it. So the people who are delivering the books at your home are people with physical disability. The person who's actually, by the way, you are part Turkish. So I was telling him that one of the Turkish saying that we had read is that if you want to steal a book. So we said, okay, why don't we literally bring it up out here? So the person who's the person to keep an eye on you is visually challenged. So he's going to run the whole part of it, and he's been trained by Just Books also. So Just Books co-founder is also here, so they are also helping us in terms of that. And then there is a small conversation in terms of cafe where you can come spend time, and even the cafe is run by a person with disability. So we are just trying to enable them, and our contribution is only that make sure that there is a space and everything is going to be run by them. So thanks for that opportunity, and thanks for actually agreeing to come here and start the conversation, and nothing better than this sort of conversation. And the absolute space is about being you. Right, so that's it. Thank you.
Just like an Indian tradition, we'll light up the lamp, and I request Suresh from Just Books to join us.
You know, Cirak means light.
Yeah. Many. Sanjay.
Many.
Suresh sir, 2 words for our collaboration.
Yeah. No, I'll not be apologetic for you guys being here. At least on Sunday we should make time for books and some great words by people around us. So I mean, very happy to come back to Indiranagar with Just Books, and hope we'll be able to add a lot more books and serve a lot more people here. Whole idea of Just Books was to just make reading extremely simple for people, right? If I can just make the books accessible for the kids and the readers, we believe people will start reading, and there can be a better society than a society where people are just enjoy reading and then just enjoy literature, right? So hope we'll have great time here, and all the best to Anand and team.
Thank you, sir. So without further ado, Prakash, Cirak, please.
Anand has asked me to open this by reading something. So I'll read a couple of pages or more from Sanjay's book. This is from his work Narova. The character Jacob says, "Somehow I don't seem to understand this. How can Lord Krishna deliver a lecture which is later drafted word for word by a sage much after the war, especially someone who wasn't even there in the war? And now it's a holy book for everyone." But turns to him angrily. He's waving his hands about as he talks. "But JJ, you're crossing the line now. Have I asked you if Jesus or Muhammad wrote the holy books themselves? We won't know exactly who wrote them and when. These are general beliefs that should not be questioned. For us, it's the word of the Bhagavan, God Himself. There's a funny thing about who wrote the book, because who wrote the Mahabharata? Who wrote it? I mean, it's not a trick question, really. Huh? Did he write it or he narrated?
Yeah, Ganesha wrote it as per.
Yeah. See, orality is a very important idea, at least for India. But I think it was true for everybody, So, Jacob sighs, but he nods. "Jacob, sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you or anything. I was just curious. I can see so many flaws in Mahabharata that it does not particularly show good versus evil, which is the essence of most holy books, right? Shobha, like they offer a moral of the story. But again, this is the problem of monotheistic religions. You see everything in black or white. In the book, Bhagavan asks Arjuna to do his job and not expect anything in return. He asks him to leave other things to the Lord to decide. Can't. But being God Himself, shouldn't He be on the side of good? But was He in the case of Mahabharata? I feel like there's so much of it that wasn't fair play, don't you think so? But looks like he's getting attacked from all sides, which increases his agitation. But there is a reason for everything. There's a justification for every such incident. Why do you think Bhagavan Krishna would otherwise help the Pandavas? Ask me any incident and I'll give you the context to explain why things end the way they do. Jacob, did they cheat in the war under the very nose of Lord Krishna himself? And in fact, he provoked them many times into doing those things. Can't. As far as I know, almost every step in the war, be it Bhishma, the teacher, and what about the long lost brother, Karan? How could they? But sarcastically, it is not Karan, it is Karna. And the teacher was Dronacharya. So that's it by way of inauguration. See, this will be a freewheeling conversation. I'm using the word conversation with a sacred hint, if possible. We are entering into an era, or we may have already done it some time ago and we didn't realize it, where we will assume that we won't need each other. that everybody can work in isolation and we can actually just create products for others to consume. So we're going to an era where there'll be an end of conversation, society as we know it. Whether I'm exaggerating this or not, it is true that we really talk much less, to each other than before. And if AI is going to replace a lot of what we do, it's going to replace us in most fields. I think we should hold sacred something that we can do voluntarily in a non-transactional way, which is conversation. And I think to start a place for that, to me, is a kind of sacred duty, I think. So with that, I'll turn to Cirak. You can see his book there. And we have been in conversation for some time now, whenever we meet. And I think we'll get something rewarding if we'll talk to each other and then open it up for you to talk also. We'll go through some questions first and then we will open it. My first question is a kind of thing that I wonder about increasingly, the idea of the moral behind the strong should look after the weak. How valid is it? Because in everything else, we valorize and lionize greatest market share, the strongest will win, the fastest will win, the biggest will win. We celebrate companies that become, $600 billion market cap. We celebrate when Nvidia becomes not anymore, but for some time it became bigger than the GDP of Canada. When we valorize the strength and success, and being better than everybody else and getting more than anybody else, why is it we have this morality, in conversations, that it's the duty of the strong to look after the weak? In India especially, it turns to something that Indians will be familiar with, which is about a never-ending conversation about reservation. Which is positive discrimination. You reserve for the underprivileged, socially underprivileged, not just economically. You give them what you call the lower castes, for instance. You give them preference in college, courses, and you give them seats in higher education institutions out of turn, and you give them promotions out of turn. You reserve jobs for them out of turn. But it's becoming a bit of a hoax today. We'll come to that later, why it is a hoax. But at the moment, what do you think is the morality, going back to Greek times, what is the morality of the strong should look after the weak? Why should they?
We're diving straight into the depths of things. I always take a bigger perspective on the intelligence that's at work behind all of this. And there's certain indicators, morality being one of them, that there's elements that are sprinkled into our being that keep us stirring, that keep us reflecting, that keep us trying one thing, try another thing. And without those elements, we might grow stale. And it points to a higher intelligence being at work behind all of this, because we're never left to just be in our comfort zone, or lock into one way of thinking, or just have a truth that we can hold on to permanently, that never changes, that never makes us question whether that really is the truth. So there's these irritations, almost like in an oyster when a pearl is to form. We're all pearls, but without that irritation, we wouldn't grow. And morality, I think, is one of those elements that it's actually quite a beautiful thing. It can go in all kinds of directions. It can be warped and used to manipulate and used to in your agenda if a person has one or an institution has one. But it's one of those ingredients, one of those elements that stir up life and keep it active, keep it moving, keep it expanding, shrinking, morphing. There's something that I wanted to address from your opening in terms of feeling like we don't need each other anymore. It's also a little bit like that. When you look at the macro, this is the movement that's happening to isolate, but it's actually teaching us how much we do need each other. And without that movement, we wouldn't experience anything. We wouldn't see that there's a compass inside of us, something that rings deeper than just the way we've been living. So everything is just constantly shaping us, sharpening us, deepening us, every person individually. It's not something that can be passed along, unfortunately, but also fortunately, because we're all each individual soul meant to feel our path, not just read about it or hear about it. That's an important step, but the deepening, the internalization is the more important piece to round out our soul into its wholeness.
Thank you, Cirak. From the passage I just read from Sanjay's book, for instance, when somebody asks, it's cheating. Krishna himself was cheating. See, that's a bit of morality already, I tell you. It is war. You make stealth bombers so that they can't be seen. You can't actually bomb other people that you actually don't know personally. You don't mind killing them. You make weapons where you do use decoys. For instance, clusters of what you call drones that they send now, unmanned, vehicles. Some of them are just decoys. Basically, war is about lying and cheating and winning whichever way you can. And my favorite challenge always is that I'll repeat it here. Now Krishna is actually accused of directing Arjuna to shoot arrows at Karna while he's fixing his broken chariot. And they're saying it is not morally correct. This is what, I've seen even, somebody like Amartya saying, like Arjuna was a pacifist. And I'm saying this kind of casual morality is a real problem because in practice nobody does this. If India or any country was at war with another country and if they were fighting, and let's say the tank of the others from the other side, actually the belt of the tank broke. Nobody's going to just get down and break for tea till the enemy fixes it, right? It's just inconceivable. The morality is like, it is fantastical. Like nobody actually practices this. If you go to sit in an exam, you're not looking to get all your friends to score as much as you do. Although sometimes you feel the impulse. You try to do as well as you can to, if you possible, beat everybody. This is our natural impulse. Maybe it is not natural. Actually, we lost connection with community living. Maybe. My question on morality is something like that. I'm saying we actually are saying we should care for each other, but we really don't. If the gap between the richest and the poorest in the world is increasing, I don't see doing many articles, on the front page of how poor people have become. All the stories about how rich people have become, So I'm saying, what we practice is not what we actually do at all. And there is a problem with morality. What is that impulse? Is it from the beginning, man, by man I mean human, has an impulse to be good? I would like to believe that. Do you think that's what makes us be like this?
Yeah, so that points to a larger question. Well, firstly, we can only act in accordance to which we live by our own conscience. If we can truly answer to our own conscience, then the way we treat ourselves, then we cannot treat anyone else differently. So when you have more conscious, more aware, self-aware leaders, they won't be, warped by other interests as much because they answer to their own conscience. They cannot treat anyone else differently than they treat themselves. So the bigger question that this points to, though, is the purpose of our existence. And should everything be perfect? What is perfect? And without friction in our lives, where's the impetus for growth? So the impetus for this meeting and this conversation and raising our consciousness and the vibration that this room is putting out to the environment. Lots of studies show when you have meditation events, crime drops in the environment. That this is adding fuel for growth. It's a little harsh when you hear it at first, but unconsciousness fuels growth. That's the main driver of our life. We're always manifesting from lack, fear, control. We don't do anything that we don't feel like once we get there, we'll have something that we feel we're missing currently. So it motivates us. And then of course we get there and realize that's not where we feel complete, nothing in the external. But in the process, there's a wisening, a deepening. And this happens on the individual level, as well as the macro level, government levels. It's certainly, once you have more awareness within yourself, you see the red flags. You mentioned propaganda of military and government media separating out. That's the first thing they do, is they cut you off from the enemy's humanity. Because if you actually saw them, if you moved in close, if you're ever angry at anyone, you can only be angry from afar. If you move in, you can feel it just melt away because it's a human in front of you. Yes, it's the eye, through the eyes especially. And you just can't, you'll start conversation, you'll start dialoguing and figuring it out what your differences might be. And then you even rise above that. It's like, just because you have differences doesn't mean you can't love each other. So it's actually really beautiful when you come together. But yeah, there's forces out there in their own interests that separate us and create a divide. And the more we notice that through talks like this, but also just in our relationships, family, co-workers, then we can just become more attuned to, this is what's actually happening. And then, we have some say in our communities, families, communities, organizations. If you run a company, if you're active, then you can bring that level of consciousness into those spaces.
Yeah, if there were no other in your mind, if there was no other, it's easier to talk. And see, the idea of the nation state, but it must be 200 years old. It's a completely artificial idea. So let's look at what happened to us with partition. On August 14th, 1947, if you were in Lahore, you were a patriotic Indian. And after midnight, you're a patriotic Pakistani. How does the feeling shift? It's a completely artificial arrangement. All nation states actually are totally artificial arrangements. And it's a deliberate idea of creating the other. I'm bringing it to that because I think we can do this business as usual. We have done this for a long time. And there was a period, for 30 or 40 years when suddenly there was very little war in the world, and the wars happened in places where even if 500,000 people died, you put it on the 11th page, like that kind of wars were there. Otherwise, in the known world, there was very little. Disease was under control, but everything is now gone. Climate change is real. It's a real problem. It's going to get much worse every year. You can't just ignore it. But although we just continue to live, if there was a Yaksha Prashna, for this, what is the greatest miracle of all? Because Yudhishthira says, people carry on as if they're immortal. But this would be like what you call something you derive from it. Now, with new technologies, say some 16 or 20 emerging technologies, very disruptive, way bigger than let's say the Industrial Revolution. We just need to talk and do something about this. We just can't carry on like this. I mean, the war between, say, Russia and Ukraine. Well, how do you resolve this? What does it even mean if we do not talk and we suspend this idea of casual morality, which I am calling, which you just say, you're just ticking boxes, you don't mean anything that you're saying. If you can get to some real thing and say, for instance, if there is enough food in the world, like we are doing now, we are sending food to homes, you distribute it to everybody. Don't drown wheat in the sea like the US did, at one time, to keep the prices of wheat stable. So if you could talk differently and talk really clear, that's clear and present danger. So I'm saying if you could address that, the Community of Nations, it would help maybe, but we can't even do that. Actually, to me, there's a big attempt. We can't even do this in a small circle. The people will be identifying themselves with one cause or the other, and in the table we'll be fighting. I'm saying you should, because you're a globe traveler, and you come from zones of conflict that you've seen closely. What do you think we should do? If if the developed, in a way, Christian world, cannot handle this, who will then? What do we do with this? See, everything. Look at us. I'm having the microphone. I'm speaking in a language that is not mine. We have a ritual that is not ours. We're wearing clothes, most of us. No, not you, but not you. We're wearing clothes that are not ours. When we're like this, we are imitating. I'm sorry to say, a failed idea. Climate change was, somebody said, an inevitable consequence of how the West developed. We are actually treading on those, we're imitating what they do. Okay. I think you tell me what you think about this. It really bothers me. What do we do about this?
Yeah. So the first thing with anything that bothers us is to accept it. As long as we're entangled with it emotionally, there's an energy sap that's happening there, and it doesn't lead to as clear action as it could be. So even looking at it from the big picture, everything will lead to a lesson learned. So even if you just let things run the way they're running, without interfering, without any personal engagement, things might blow up in a big way, but there will be learning from that. It's not great to see suffering, but suffering promotes growth. So very often the biggest moments, we look back in recent history, even led to the most advances in even morality maybe coming back to be more of on the radar at least. But rules and laws being put into place, after World War II, there was a moment of such humility and humbleness that many governments put social systems in place that are still standing today that you couldn't implement anymore under today's circumstances because it's not as raw, people are not as reduced to equal, kind of their humanity. But still, whatever will happen, and people will learn from it. And if that means, in the biggest, blow up that humanity has to start over, it will still start over. So, the spirit is not concerned with, it doesn't have to happen now or this way or that way. But of course, we want to bring it back down to our lives right now. So how can we apply ourselves best, and most authentic way? And the first thing there is just to relax about and accept that this is how it is. Because it just takes energy away from us if we get upset. We can observe it, notice it, but maintain the equanimity of our mind. And that puts us most in touch with our inner truth, our conscience, if you will. And then we can act from there, we can take action. We have to take action. I don't think you can stand still when you are really in tune with your truth about whatever situation. You will, even in just your energy field, provide a counter to that, an improvement, a rising, an up-leveling of sorts. And then certainly more practically in your talk and creating events like this, even just sharing stories and with your coworkers or others, you're going to bring your vibration to the world. And then of course you'll be full-on activist, full-on, be on the bigger stage and speak up and use your influence and to really enact more visible changes. But everyone has the power within them, and you can almost not fake it. You are at whatever level of evolution you are, what station in life you're at in terms of your self-awareness, your self-knowing, and self-realization, and your connection to spirit, source, and you're going to be doing your best all the time. So when we get upset about seeing other people, they're doing their best. If they knew to do it differently, whatever situation may be, the way they're handling themselves, they're doing their best. And to find peace within oneself and the acceptance of that doesn't mean we can't then take steps and shouldn't take action. Mindfulness is not about being passive. It's about really being tuned in and in sync with your truth, an extension of greater source truth, and then acting very clearly on that. When we're in judgment, when we're in reactivity, when we're trying to control, when we're upset, then that we're not as in tune with ourselves. And our own vibration when we show up is not as clear as it could be. And it's most of the times, it's not what we say, it's just how we carry ourselves. It's how we learn from our parents. Actually, what they say is we go the other direction usually, but how do they carry and handle themselves in situations of conflict, or how do they handle wealth or money or whatever it may be? That's what we absorb. And so even in hearing us talk, what the audience, you are absorbing mostly is how we carry ourselves and how we exchange and how we handle conflicting ideas, or how we zoom out and then zoom back in, and just kind of the essence of this exchange. I used to be very introvert, and when I started writing books, I didn't even want to put my name on it. I just wanted the message to speak for itself, and then I learned that no, people want to know about the author. You kind of have to be a face to it. So I had to come out of that shell, take public speaking classes, and become more outward oriented. And the thing that really put me at ease is learning that I think it's 93% of what you say as a speaker goes in one ear and out the other. What people walk away with, what they keep, is how you made them feel, the energy, your presence. So everyone is energy sensitive, aware, in tune, and even when mentally you might be thinking that's woo-woo and what's energy talk and all this. No, you're picking up energy all day long. There's extreme examples when somebody walks in, they've had a bad day, they're full of negativity. You can feel that. Oh my gosh. Or somebody walks in who's really positive and uplifted, and you can feel that as well. Those are the extreme examples, but there's a whole spectrum of energy. And so coming back to how we best apply our energy, our frequency, is to literally accept things as they are. And acceptance is actually that moves us forward, that moves us, that compels us to take action. And it's never mental acceptance. It's the biggest misconception when people hear acceptance. Oh, now I have to think about something I don't like in a positive way, or what am I supposed to do here? No, it's acceptance of how you feel about the situation, to truly allow your feelings to be as they are. That makes you more authentic and more tuned and more sharp to then act from that place.
I think I'll pick the word action from there. Let's say we're bothered by something and you must act, you should do something to make that problem a little less than it is, or make it go away altogether. So let's look at some of the things we could do. I feel most of us feel that we have no agency left. With big problems, look at the traffic. Look at climate change. You know how, look at the floods that are happening, things going so wrong. AI will take away our jobs. Look at how the government behaves. Look at how the forest department behaves. For instance, you feel you have no agency, so there's nothing you can do about it. This party is as bad as that party, political party, or even worse. Then what do you do? And I feel sometimes I've tried to answer it for myself, and I will give some examples just so that you can further what you're thinking about this, because it's quite fascinating that you accept how you feel is a very good idea. I borrowed it from somebody, and once I said, don't complain about the traffic. You are the traffic. It's an important idea. We keep throwing one figure in Bangalore, that we generate 4,000 tons of solid waste every day. God knows who did that survey and came up with that number, because we've been saying this for 10 years. It must have gone up if somebody has actually done a survey. We don't know who did it. So, whose problem is it that there is solid waste? The court has ruled that you can't go and dump it anywhere, because all the surrounding villages are saying, don't dump it here, and they're winning the cases. So what do? So they actually collect it and distribute it along the roadside wherever they can in the night. You can actually see, that's what they do. Now the thing is, how do we resolve this? I have a simple answer to it. Don't generate waste. Why do you generate waste? No species on earth generates waste except humans. No species does, pollution. You don't have to go and clean up the forest. I said once that, in India, forests were very good till the forest department came. But actually, I'm not being witty with it. The forest department was formed by the British to exploit forests, because it was another country. They could do whatever they want there. It's not one world, you understand? There are many countries. This is another place with other people, and you can do anything to that forest. This one is beautiful, that one you can destroy. That's why they did. Is it any surprise that our governments continue to do that? Because that's the core principle of it. Like this, now last one I will say. Why do we do? Look at this roof. Why concrete? I'm in Rotary. I was in director for environment for Rotary for a couple of years. And everybody's moral talk they do is that, cement industry, steel industry, construction, building, development people, they are the evil of the world. So much water they use, so much pollution they make. They're making it for you. If you say, I don't want concrete homes, they'll build it with bamboo if you want. We feel we are never implicated in all this. We have agency, we can be better people. We can be more responsible, but we are not. And somebody like you, and hopefully marginally someone like me, we should be able to influence people not to be like that. I try to travel by metro whenever I can. Okay, I told Anand to pick me up from Indiranagar station, but somebody was coming this way and that person dropped me. It's a Sunday, so we got here in 25 minutes. But otherwise, it's a nightmare. Who will travel in this city by car? Billionaires do. Their time is very expensive. They don't mind. From Jayanagar to Electronic City, billionaires, I won't name them, will go through Hosur Road 2.5 hours and come back to Jayanagar 2.5 hours. Why do you do that? Instead of getting that flyover elevated road to Electronic City, maybe you should have had a rail there, monorail or something you should have had. If going every 2 minutes. We can actually fix it. It's not so difficult, I think. How do we fix ourselves?
Nice. So absolutely 100%, and that's part of the evolution of our soul, is to reach a point where we realize that our happiness is 100% within reach, which also implies it's 100% your responsibility. And that is part of the coming of age process, is like you realize it's you're born alone, you die alone, it's not meant as a negative thing. This life is all about you. If you take this into quantum physics and projection, that we're all just generating ourselves. We started talking about this outside earlier, that we're all experiencing our own little universe based on our needs, our expectations, our hopes, our entanglements with self and ego and our story and all of this. So in that story, we're generating a story, every one of us. There is such thing as objective reality, but it's super simple. You know, it's like if I knocked over the bottle, it's a bottle falling, that's it. There's no, oh, I'm clumsy, or, you know, now the rug, which was so expensive, like, none of that. So there is objective reality, but no one really experiences it. It would be flavorless. So we're all creating a story of our reality, and we're in control of that story. And it's just to wake up from the blind patterns that we've inherited from, you know, Carl Jung said, most of our issues are the unlived life of our parents. Is we're just absorbing things as kids, our brains are sponges, we don't have the tools to discern, and we just blindly repeat things. So a big part of that is just coming out of that blindness. Culture has a lot to do with that. Again, there's healthy parts, healthy attachments and unhealthy attachments. And to every, so nothing is black and white. But yeah, it just come out of that blind repetition of patterns. And there's a word for it in society, black sheep. And then you find yourself as like a loner, and nobody understands you, your family thinks you're weird, when you know so truly within yourself, no, they are the ones that are weird, that they're living upside down. But so that takes courage, and you know, it's great to have a community when you have others, because you don't feel you're so alone. So much healing comes from just knowing that you're not alone. And that's a power that can be harnessed in part of this, you know, bringing your message out there, because there's many who are just like right on the border of they would say something, but because they feel like there's no one else, they won't. So absolutely. I get messages all the time from people I taught at high university level for 10 years, 20 years ago. And I still get messages from people, oh, this is what you said here, or this class there, and, you know, changed my life. I don't remember what I said. But something in there they were able to pick up, and it mattered, it was meaningful to them at that moment, at that point. And that's really, you know, you keep doing this work, you keep attending sessions like this and following speakers or inspiring figures, that there's something in the way they say it, in their personality and the setting, that really resonates with your truth and brings that forth. And again, this takes you to a place where you become so, I describe it as self-contained in your power, that you realize your happiness is not dependent on anyone else. As long as we're living at the mercy of our environment for how we feel, we're not really free, we're slaves. And that's when we try to control things, keep away the negative stuff, you know, only get the positive stuff, but it's clinging and resisting, it's messy, it's complicated. It's no way to really live. We're all deep down trying to get away from all of that. And that is not continuing to seek ourselves in the external, but really turning inward, doing the inner work, and then from there you have this unbelievable power, the story that you create of your power that you then bring out into the world. Not of your lack, not of your feeling not good enough, none of the complications, but the true essence of here's who I am, this moment is real, and I trust myself to show up and to respond to what's there, with no preconceived notions of what it should be. That's a powerful place to be.
You know, fascinating. This is the reason I stopped him when he started speaking about this. We have talked about this before, about who we are, each one of us. I mean, to me it seems like there is no argument. The universe is everyone's subjective experience. I completely agree with that. The objective reality is a kind of quotidian, like it's nothing big, you know. Yeah? That's so. The real thing, what is the real thing, is how we imagine the universe is. But what happens is we lie to ourselves, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. And after your response, we can open this up. See, the idea is that if somebody, I've spoken to him about this before, if somebody asks you, who you are, would you give this reply that you would give it to anybody else, is the question. So let me put it this way. If somebody asks you who you are, will you say who you are? Do you know who you are? Or you will actually say what that person will recognize. So you go to your office, when you scan, your thing to get in, or the security guy recognizes you, or you declare yourself. You say, I'm an employee of this company. Actually, you're an employee of the company only partly. When you go home, when you go to play in a club, you'll say, I'm a member of this club, tennis club. I'm a member of it. It's what the other person recognizes, because it's not like if you're caught for drinking and driving, you take out your mobile phone and tell the cop, do you know who I am? Some people do that. That impulse is there because you think he should know you, but you can't actually declare who you are to him. You'll have to say, I know somebody else, because that's what he recognizes. The problem is, whenever you're asked this question, who you are, you give an identity that is not yours really. It has been given to you, given to us by somebody else. Your name, your caste, your religion, your nationality, your language, your dialect, the clothes you wear, the food you eat. Nothing is yours. Everything is given to you. What in all that is you? There's a great Buddha question, I think it was Nagarjuna. I said, what in the Ganga is the Ganga? Meaning the first drop that comes from, Gangotri, and it goes to the Bay of Bengal. So what in the Ganga is Ganga? Actually, there's an Indian answer to that, because India is an argumentative country, it likes to ask questions, which is a good thing, There's an answer to that. It's your memory of the river that is the Ganga. So when you say you don't step into the same river twice because it's moved, actually you should realize you also have moved. The experience has changed you. Chiranjeev Singh told me this great story about Guru Nanak. He had gone to the edge of the, of a sarovar, and he's standing there with his shishyas, and he sees a scorpion that has fallen into the water and is struggling. He bends down, scoops it up, it stings him, and he lets go. It falls into the water again. He's now changed. He bends down, he scoops it up, it stings him again. But he's prepared for it now. He puts it on the ground and it scampers away. So the Shishya asks him, Guruji, it's a scorpion. You know that. And it already stung you once. Why did you do it again? He says, you're right, it's a scorpion. It's in its nature to sting. But I'm human. It's in my nature to save it, he says, That is being yourself. Who are you is that I am that. You should be able to say, is what he's hinting at. It is itself. Can you be you? That is what he's saying. But we are not. We are actually looking for validation, like he's saying. From the external world, you're seeking approval, acceptance, validation all the time. And you're distressed because you're not getting it. If you say, I don't need it, if you there are stuff in the street, if you're going past it, you don't care, you don't want it. It is like that. There are lots of certificates people are issuing. You say, I didn't apply for this. I didn't join this course, I didn't apply for this. You can tell them. We don't need to be validated. If we can have a sense of self like that, and we know what we can do, and we set out to do it as well as we can, then you don't need any validation. You need approval for a completely different things. If you ask the auto driver, can you come to Indiranagar, and he accepts, you feel really grateful. Otherwise, what do you need from other people? You can think. So, after a response, please feel free to say anything. And if you say, like, this question is to, say, Cirak, but I answered, don't yell at me. Okay? It is free, anyone can do it. Okay? Yeah. Thank you.
I had to smile at the comment about India being argumentative, because every time I try to customize my food when I order, I get an argument. So it's certainly, we're wearing social masks all the time, everywhere we go. I think the distinction is there is some value, at least I think, to meeting people where they are, but it's the wearing social masks blindly, without awareness, that leads to greater problems and a almost denial of self, that energetically you're reinforcing constantly that I don't like myself, I don't want to be who I truly am, I'm not giving that a voice. That can't be good for you. That's eventually going to show up as some kind of illness. So with awareness, we can tell somebody what they need to hear based on the cop that pulls you over, or the restaurant, or wherever it is. You're kind of meeting them so that it actually helps with the communication, because there's some value in that, right? That there's standards that are in place, that it makes life a little easier. But when you come at it, when you say I am this mask, but you're saying it with awareness, with true consciousness, there's, I think, something else that gets transmuted underneath. It's an energy of authenticity. Because words are actually very fickle and feeble, very rudimentary in trying to describe deeper concepts. We're doing a good job as best as we can here, but the energy speaks much louder. So the ability to say I am, this or that, but from a place of authenticity, then that loses its fakeness charge, I would say. It'll help in whatever to move the situation along, but you didn't deny yourself. You still showed up as real. And from that same place of power, you can say no, for example, in the most authentic, non-offensive way, because you're standing up to your truth. There's no guilt behind it. There's no feeling bad about it or needing the other person's approval. All of this complicates things. But you can say no and stand up in such a friendly, authentic, beautiful way that everyone gets it, without feeling like it's their fault or that you don't like them or anything like that. So again, coming back to the energy from which we're coming, the more authentic it is, the more just everything, the words lose their polarity. The people don't feel judged, because you can't judge from an authentic place. You're loving yourself. Authenticity is self-love, and you can only love others to the degree that you love yourself. So if you're really authentic with yourself, you're loving yourself, and you bring that love energy, that frequency to everyone, and they see past the words. Even if they're not quite the same authenticity level, they feel uplifted by your presence. So I always come back to just answer to your conscience, practice, being real. Realness is the most powerful currency, if not the only currency. Everything else is low frequency, fake stuff, surface stuff, mask stuff. But the currency of realness is all you need. You show up to a job interview, 100 people have been there this week, and the interviewers have seen and heard the same thing over and over and over. Everyone has qualifications, everyone has a degree, everyone has experience. What makes you stand out is your realness. It will take you into your realness as a parent, your realness as a partner, your realness as a speaker, as a realness as an author. It infuses everything that you do and touch and even think of with that the most potent power there is, which is you responding and living up and speaking up to your design, which is the divine. And if you are true to that, it protects you. You see the language in all the scriptures and the Bibles and all that. If you dig through the layers of translations and words and all that, you get down to the truth of it. Then you hear it over and over. It's just be yourself. Be you, and nothing can go wrong.
Over to you.
I have one question.
Yeah.
So this is to Cirak. So, what inspired you to write all these books on self-inquiry?
Should we give them?
Thank you. So, this question is to Cirak. So, what inspired you to write all these books on self-inquiry?
It wasn't me wanting to do it. It wasn't me having some kind of vision of what I need. Thankfully, you can still write books from that, but it would be more, ego-infused books. I had a very completely different career in tech and startup scene in Silicon Valley as an educator. It was ultimately, many people hit rock bottom and that's their turning point. For me, it was more I was living a very good life externally. I had done what all the things that are supposed to make you happy, and it didn't. Something was missing. So it wasn't from some point of desperation, but it just hit me. Life will find a way to make you grow. It just will. You won't leave you in your comfort zone. And there came a point when I was so comfortable that just this rocket explosion of, well, you're going to have to let go of this and keep expanding, and that was the direction I didn't want to expand it to. I'd never really read much. In fact, I joke that the only book I ever read was Anne Frank in French, and never envisioned that being an author or anything like that. But when that desire comes to you, the path reveals itself. It's never a plan. The true divine guidance is never something you come up with. We cannot know what makes us happy today in the future. I mean, these are all mental illusions that we make these big plans and then pursue it. It's like, if you just think about it logically for a moment, you can see you are who you are today. Whatever makes you happy today, pursue that. Because next year you'll be a different person. You'll have other desires and needs, and then hopefully you act on those then and not put it off again. Start to live more and more in sync with life, with the messages that come to us, and especially the messages from within, not so much the outside voices of what we're supposed to do, what you should, who you should be, and all that. Again, it's a learning lesson. I don't want to make it seem like that's wrong or bad, but this is the contrast that builds over time when you realize the way I've been living is not fulfilling, and there must be a better way. And add to a talk like this that before would have passed you by 10 times, suddenly something in you says, go to that, and you might find something meaningful. And so it's like breadcrumbs that the universe leaves, and you just kind of have to, it'll start resonating when your time is right. And for me, it was a midlife thing. A lot of the masters, they had their enlightenment moments very early in life. Krishnamurti was basically raised in it, Osho and others in their 20s. The Buddha was actually late to the game in his 30s, but they didn't have the chance to, probably because their soul age coming in was already so extensive, and that basically right in the next life at the beginning, they're into their enlightenment phase. For me, it was, I think for most people, they hit what is commonly called midlife crisis. There's actually a word for it. And then the question is, what do you do with that? And I'm hearing more and more about a third life crisis and even a quarter life crisis. But again, what do you do with that? Do you just go to the doctor and they prescribe some pills and go back to work the next day? Or do you, like what I did, is I isolated myself as something is wanting to move through me, and there's a message there. It could be my own soul age, my karma, that I gave that space to reveal itself, and it turned into this.
Cirak, I want to ask you a question that bothered most of us for several decades now, right? We are still confused about the Aryan invasion, whether Aryans came here or whatever it is. But your name is a perfect pointer to ask that question, right? Did Cirak became Cirak or Cirak became Cirak, right? So, because we have traveled in both the worlds, what do you feel, right? Do you think Cirak became Cirak, or Cirak became Cirak, what do you think is probably the answer, and what is good for you, right? How do you feel that this is ideal for you?
Yeah. I mean, I went down this path kicking and screaming. Didn't want to let go of the things I had created. I was built 17 companies. I was so deeply in that world. I invested in real estate. I wrote music. I played tennis at a high level. I had a very full life outside of myself. I perfected the way of living for myself in a healthy, genuine way, not losing myself in the material, but really making the most out of it. And I was fortunate enough to be raised by parents who conveyed a good balance, life-work balance. But I didn't want to let go of those things at all. And when the messages, the downloads came that suddenly you have to get rid of stuff, things that you had assigned meaning to, belongings, to suddenly have to leave a long-term relationship that it made no sense. There was nothing wrong with it. Why do I have to do this? And these are hard moments, and you've heard of the dark night of the soul, where it just, all the meaning that we had been conditioned to assign to things, all of that needs to be released. If we really want to free ourselves, we have to let go of that. And it's not an easy path. Nobody just enlightenment, come get me, here I am, I'm ready. No. It's a messy, difficult, painful experience, and you have to, because you're dying to yourself. So that original Cirak had to die to himself in a complete way, and then reconstruct itself from a higher place of meaning. So yeah.
But I think Suresh's question is more literal than that. He's saying, did the language, come from there to here, or did it go from here to there? Is his question, I think, right?
Yeah.
Well, Cirak is my given name, it's my last name, but it was not a spiritual name, so it wasn't assigned to me through some guru
No,
process.
when we say this, this is, I'll tell you what, Indians are very bothered by this question. They shouldn't care. America doesn't care, so we are very bothered about, our ancient thing, who came first, kind of thing is there. So this crazy thing, what he's saying is, we are saying from India, the Indo-Aryan languages went out, came. And somebody is claiming, it was given to you because by the Aryan, first they said Aryan invasion, about 120 years ago they started saying Aryan invasion. Then they actually changed it to Aryan migration. Now I don't know what new thing they've got. But there is this thing about where did the language spread from? From the whatever primary founding language was there. That spread. Did it go west or did it come east?
Okay.
That is the thing.
I see.
Yeah.
I think it starts from the collective. There's nothing exists when you have an idea. You're not in in a place of isolation. We're pulling everyone from somewhere. Musicians are best to describe this, the honest ones, and I'm sure artists as well. It's like, this is not my idea, I'm receiving it. And it's safe to say, especially if you're an entrepreneur, that you're in stealth mode, you don't want anyone to hear about your new idea, and you go through the cycle of prototypes and all that, and then you go live, and then you see 10 other companies doing the same. And it's like, what happened? It's like we're all pulling from some place collectively, and then the boundaries and borders and cultures and languages and all that stuff, it's kind of a sub-segmentation underneath. It's not the essential piece. And to argue something started here before then and all that stuff, it might be stimulating mentally, but it's not essential. So I would say just what I'm getting on that question is that in earlier times, in 1900, the population of the planet was 500 million. I mean, just nothing. And if you just go back more and more, there was very few. There were pods of people, and a lot of migration, a lot of movement. And where my name came from goes back to Ottoman Empire, 600 years of maybe Viking influence and Turkish influence, and who knows. So a lot of exchange when the farther you go back. or periods of extreme change of conquerorship and all kinds of things. And, if you trace meditation, how that traveled through different branches and philosophies, and everything kind of mixes and mingles at some point. So I would say that see yourself as a culmination of something beautiful that wants to express itself through form. So the formless coming into the world. There's so much diversity. I mean, it's incredible. We should be forgiven to lose ourselves in the external, because it's just amazing. One moment we're spirit, and now we're like in this space, and like no wonder you get absorbed by it, infatuated by it. And we should, because then the process is that we seek ourselves in that, only to realize that that's not where we find our true self. It points us inward eventually. So I think with culture and language, it's a beautiful, and I think actually, growing up, I had 3 passports, and I could move between countries and cultures and speaking foreign languages very fluidly. And I always thought to myself, well, everyone should have this, because my friends were coming with me, I had to go get a visa and go through a complicated process, and everyone should just be able to move. Since then, I've modified that from the experience that it's good to have pods of that are identified with a certain way, with a certain culture, with certain routines, with certain traditions, because it creates contrast. And if everything's the same, it doesn't quite stimulate our growth as much. But if you have contrast, now moving in between them should be more easy. But we shouldn't lose our culture. It's very refreshing to be in India, because its culture is intact, even if you might think it's lost a lot of it, but it's much more intact than many places in the world, where it's just such a jumbled mix now that it's I don't know if that's that healthy, and for the soul to really find itself. So you brought up something earlier I wanted to bring back, in that ultimately the higher our self-awareness, our consciousness, the more it becomes a challenge to live in the world that is designed by and for lower levels of consciousness. And so the big challenge then becomes to accept that, to be okay with that. That becomes your primary challenge. And then to apply yourself in this really meaningful way, knowing that your frequency, it may not be understood. I mean, some of the greatest influencers in the past were nailed to a cross or obliterated in some sense because of the threat that they posed, the more authentic they were. So if it's your calling to be so pure out there, and even if it means you'll be taken down, and or if you want to work with it more fluidly, that's up to you. But we're just it's this beautiful experiment that we're in, and you have so many different flavors, and the number of languages still baffles me. Even here, I could be going to an event, and they're speaking Kannada. And it's like, I thought we're in, we're in India, and it's Hindi, and like, no, there's so much diversity here. It's a beautiful thing. Again, we shouldn't attach ourselves too much to judgment of anything, but rather to the beauty of. I was on a podcast yesterday, and the interviewer shared a story of how she's a very enlightened person. And she was on her way to some event, and the plane was delayed, and stress started to come up. And she was stuck at the airport. And something in her, some download came along that shifted her out of the judgment and the stress into what a beautiful surprise, what the unknown is going to happen. And I'm going to invite that and be there for it, and be ready to greet it, meet it with, not with judgment, but with like, let me be part of it. Let me participate in this. So if you can lock into that place more, then you can walk into every situation, whatever the levels of awareness may be, and just be yourself and be so authentic. Whatever cultures or languages are at play, it doesn't matter so much what came before. It's the reality of right now. That's the most potent moment. And play with that. Be a participant in that. Be a co-creator of that. And not bring in any preconceived notions or stigmas or attachments. It dilutes the purity, the potency of being that co-creator of the formless wanting to come through you.
Because I want to return to his question, because he's in a way, it prompts us to ask, what is the purpose of life? See, dogs and horses and tigers, I don't think, are looking for a purpose to their lives. Something that we are bothered with. What is the purpose of life? So one of my theatre gurus, my theatre guru is Prasanna. And Prasanna said the real purpose of life is to live it. Now it sounds, like all aphoristic things, it sounds very simple, but it's not so simple to live your life, just live your life. We don't actually, we want to do something else with it. Humans constantly are looking to improve nature, for instance. They feel whether God or providence in nature, whatever it is, what it has done is not enough, we think, and we want to amend it in some way, like change it in some way. And every time we do it, we kind of screw it up a little more than before. So I'm saying, what is the purpose of life? I think it would be good to hear from him. What is the purpose of human life? What is it?
Well, you said it, it's to live it. The trouble, the friction, the misalignment happens when we take a moment and we isolate it and we apply labels and definitions and expectations and we turn it into something more than it is. Even positive, if you turn it into something more, you're still taking yourself out of sync. You're not ready for the next moment to be there and be a participant in that. So we tend to do that. It's our mind, it's controlling. Why, maybe it's looking to protect us, to be safe, but as part of that, it also is very rigid. And we're not living from our body, from our feelings, which are always present. That's why breath is such a effective meditation method, because it can only happen now, right now. It's not yesterday, it's not tomorrow. So if you focus on your breath, you're just getting this dose of presence, present moment awareness. And it is just living it. It's this idea that we have to get to somewhere, that we have to become somebody, that we're not good enough as we are, that creates this chaos and this turmoil. And the tree doesn't try to be a tree, it doesn't try to grow, the squirrel doesn't try to be a squirrel. The intelligence is there in the seed of its blossoming, and it's just the conditions that need to be focused on. So the same thing is the case with us, is we get so obsessed with changing ourselves. It comes from a good place. We want to be a better person. Hopefully next time I react this way, but it's noise. Ultimately, all we have to care about is creating the right conditions for us to blossom. We're never a problem. We're not something that needs to be fixed, which we're being told by media and so forth, because they want to sell products. But ultimately, there's incredible intelligence and beauty in every single one of us that wants to blossom, and all you have to do is create the right conditions, allow it. You don't have to add anything to it. We don't have to modify anything about ourselves. That is the true authenticity that wants to come. And it doesn't matter what shape it takes in your body and your skin color or your culture. It's going to be sheer beauty, because that's its core design.
Beautiful. Any other questions?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Right. So firstly, just wanted to thank you both for doing this. I think this is the first time I'm attending an event like this. Thank you so much. One thing I've always heard about films, for example, is that there is no original film. Any film that you made, or any idea or any art that you create is always derivative of something that's already been done. So one of the part of your conversation that really fascinated me was about who are we, right? And I feel like even we are some net of all of the influences that we've had, or we are also a derivative of every person that we've met, every conversation that we have, of our parents, of our past. So if I was to ask the both of you this question, who are you, without the external titles that are usually associated with it, what would you say?
I would say that, I'm trying to become myself. I'm somebody trying to become myself. I was very impressed with a statement that Virat Kohli, said in an interview. I think I picked things from completely ordinary things, because they have extraordinary results. He was a kind of chubby cricketer from Delhi when he first started playing. So the interviewer asked him, what happened to you? From that, how did you become this? He said, I just thought one day that, I should become the best version of me. great answer, you know. So if you ask me, who are you, I'll say, I'm trying to be me, I would say. But if I'm floundering, you know, make mistakes. So sometimes I confuse the subjective with the objective, like you say, like we all of us do. You know, when we say we are unhappy, think about this. Say Virat Kohli is on 96, and you know, the ball hit his pad, and he loses the review, and he's going like that song, you know, in Simon Garfunkel, where are you, Joe DiMaggio, a nation turns its lonely eyes to you. He's a great baseball player. The whole country is in mourning because, you know, he didn't do his century. What will happen? He'll go and sit in the pavilion, have a cool drink, change into more comfortable clothes. So nothing has happened. But because, you know, it is play, it's the same thing. What we do is play. That is also play. And we are playing roles there, and he's playing a role here, okay? Batting at number 4, that's the role he's playing, okay? So actually nothing has happened. Most times when we are unhappy, it's an intellectual thing, it's not a felt thing. Like, there is if you see the first rain or something and you're standing at the window and you see rainfall, you feel joy sometimes. That is real. That is real, but you say I was expecting to get 97, but I got 93 in maths and you're really depressed. It doesn't mean anything, you know. Most times I feel it is because we have lost contact with ourselves. We don't know what actually makes us happy. We are looking at an external thing as though that is the trigger that will make us happy, and it's a kind of sickness, like you said, you know. So I'll say, that is what it is. I'm trying to get out of that thing, I think, you know. That's who I am. Everything else I do is actually action. My action actually is to liberate myself. That's what it is, you know.
Yeah, so that's beautiful. I want to add to that because this is how we like to operate back and forth. So the real, there's no scale to real. Real is real. And it could be the little moment that you just described, of just the smile of a stranger, of a child, or the achievement of a lifelong dream. Real is real. And so to answer that question, if there's something, and the second piece is to accept that you're always becoming, you're always in the process, you're always growing. As long as we're here, we're growing, we're meant to grow. You can't say, the moment you think you know something, you don't. The moment you think you're complete, you're not. The moment you think you're enlightened, you're not. So it's becoming a wiser person to just be real more often, and we're all on the way to that. And it's actually in the details. The realness is found in the details, and they're all around us. So it's only when we're glossing over things with our labels and definitions and kind of these generalized statements that we get disconnected from the realness. But you could look at a tree and every branch is different, every leaf has an integrity, has even a consciousness. It's amazing, from this one seed something sprouts that has so much diversity in it. But if we walk by it, it's a tree, then we miss out on all of that. So more attention to detail that breaks the mental patterns, and just be real. And that realness is I don't know if we'll get there in our human lifetime. In any lifetimes, there's needs to be a seed of growth, of challenge always. It's kind of the nature of the experiment that we're in. But we can always do our best. We can strive to be more real.
Hi Cirak, you spoke about the masks that we wear, and I think that is, fragmented identities. Now, at which point in your life or a certain incident did you have like a consolidated mask for the world? And can we have both of you answer this for us?
Consolidated mask,
Of
an artificial one or an authentic one?
Yeah, I think an authentic one.
See, you know, the question of mask is this, that it's not real. You're playing a role. That's what the mask means, right? So the thing is, if you're aware that you're wearing a mask, you become free. That's the thing. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
But when you are not aware that you are wearing a mask, that's when you will become an artist probably.
No, what happens is when you're playing somebody else's script, when you're not aware that you're wearing a mask, you're actually playing a role that you don't realize you're playing a role. That is a great problem, and you can't be free then. What I said, trying to be me cannot happen. You can't be real if you're wearing a mask. So that is.
Yeah. I always take a practical approach to things, because just you can talk and philosophize all day long. What does it really mean for your life? And so the awareness of a mask that you're wearing will create a type of clarity inside of you. Is this worth doing? Because in the practical reality of things, maybe you need to wear a certain mask for a certain time to keep your job and to be able to feed your family and so forth. But in that awareness, you'll have clarity. Is this worth it? Is this playing the game, the charade of, it's an illusion, but we're on Earth and you have to share space with a lot of other people. And there may even be benefit in wearing that mask with authenticity, with awareness, to help lead others along and illuminate and make your message more resonant with them. But again, with consciousness, it's not, you're not going to get lost in that mask. So you can't just show up. You can't just show up, but it will have consequences, real world consequences, if you just show up real. But even in that, I wouldn't advise that. It's like you don't know what the process is, and so somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to quit my job. I want to go to a different city. I want to leave my relationship. I want to move to an island because my life sucks, and I want to find myself." Again, it's a much too big of a leap, the way I perceive it. To again, the mind is creating all that. To then say, "Yeah, I'm going to just let go of everything and jump over here." It's just infuse what you're doing currently with more awareness. You could be blocked by imposter syndrome from being a great leader at work, and it's your issue. And if you dissolve that, release that stuck energy, then you might show up and love your job, and you might love helping others live better lives. So it's more, life is more fine-tuned than you just making these big decisions to take off this mask because I don't want it. Dissolve it, become more aware of your current situation, and then from this place of greater clarity, and it will call you to be more aligned. And that might mean leaving that situation, but it also might mean just making some small tweaks, and suddenly you realize, oh, this is what I was meant to be, and there's some mental blockages, energetic blockages, that were causing you to feel like it's so fake. I have somebody, a good friend, who is she's an attorney who was an activist attorney against oil companies for many, many years. And it had been a few years since we caught up, and finally we touched base again, and I asked her, how's life, how's it going? And she goes, yeah, I work for the oil companies. And the first reaction was, oh, isn't this the people that you were fighting all this time? And yeah, from within, I'm able to influence so much more. I'm able to create positive change because they actually listen to me, as opposed to in the courtroom when it's just throwing lawyers and rules over each other, and like nothing, there's no progress there. So yes, there's some situations where you have to remove yourself and start a different path altogether, but the real change, just like the real change happens within us, is from within whatever system, whatever structure, every constellation you're currently in. If you can bring that awareness, that light of your being into those environments, that's real change, and you'll impact so much more than if you're just fighting it.
I want to tell you something from theater, what I would tell actors. I'm saying, when you cry, there's a great actor who said, nobody actually really tries to cry. They try not to cry. Actually, that is how people are. They try to control, But actors make a big deal of actually crying. They put, a lot of tears. There is a problem with that. So I'll say the idea is that the actor witnesses the role. The actor does not identify with the role. The actor actually witnesses the role, empathizes, if you wish, And you know, the pain of the character cannot be the pain of the actor. Actually, the pain of the character is the joy of the actor. If you can portray it. The actor is doing very well, you should feel. Now, take this into reality. I'm playing the role of a father. I'm playing the role of an employee. I'm playing the role of a project manager. I'm playing the role of a journalist. I'm playing the role of a politician. If you are able to witness yourself, that is the you can see. That is what, if you can see, then you are aware that you are wearing the mask. But you know, we make such solid identification with that. You feel when the politician is defeated, you also have been defeated. Huh? Or when the role has been criticized, you feel your life also has been ruined. It's not true. I'm saying that ability to witness should be there. And the other thing that you said is very interesting. There's a very great foundational novel of modern India by Rabindranath Tagore. It's called Gora. And you know, in that, he and his close friend, they're very, but as he realizes later, actually he's not a Brahmin, but he believes he's a Brahmin, and he's very fanatical about his, Brahminness. And his father worries about this because he knows that this guy is not his son. And the father is actually worried that this guy, if he dies, will do his last rites and he will not attain heaven. So some problem like that the father has. So he wants this boy to be married into a Brahma Samaj family. So he uses this Hindu fanaticism that he has. So he sends him to an old friend's house in the Brahma Samaj. There are many girls there. And they go there. It's a great story, and tea is offered. He won't drink tea. And because they ask him why, because you're, it is sacred, is it? You don't want to touch. He said yes. He says, oh, you're a idol worshipper. He says yes. I'm not a fool to disregard idols. And they keep laughing. The girls keep laughing at him. And when he comes out, he starts walking really fast. His friend tries to catch him. Says, "Don't run, Gora. I can't catch you." He says, "Why would you want to, keep step with me? Because a friend has taken tea." He says, "You go. You've chosen your path. You're a modern person now." He says, and then they sit sulking for some time. And that other guy says, if a culture is ruined just by the act of drinking tea, such a culture ought to be ruined. Actually, when I did it as a play, when that line comes, everybody applauds, okay? But Gora says, it's not that. He says there are lots of mistakes in our culture, in our country. There's superstition, there's iniquity, all this is there. The thing is, we have to change it from the inside, like that. We have to change it from the inside. That is the inside is the critic, I'm saying. Because if you stand outside, your validation is not required to them. They don't care. Only if you're one of them, you can do. And when we reach a stage when we can have a reasonably strong conversation, we can decide to drink tea or not in 20 seconds. He says, actually, that is not the question. He says, the question is a bigger one, that you should be able to change your society from the inside, not by standing outside, he says. And you see, that is the idea of witnessing. I know I'm playing a role then. I know what I want to do, but I know I'm playing a role. I don't begin to believe, management by objectives, I am aligned with my company's goals, it may not be. Actually, I'm not aligned, but I play the game because I have a higher purpose. That is the idea. Rather than a loyal employee, I'm deciding to be a good person. Yeah?
Okay, it's not a question, it's a very nice discussion platform what we had. And apart from that, it looked like slightly metaphysical and spiritual too. When you ask me, who are you? I can say that I don't know, I'm this. That's one. And then, with the current situation in the country, as we have talked about, how anybody can take some action or anything, unless the Raja is good, Yatha Raja Tata Prajaha, unless those leaders are good, cannot win. Same thing happens. And then what's going on in the world we can see. And compared to that, what we have a leader in our country, we can see how at least we are progressing in a way for the good of all. And this, I remember, Radhakrishnan used to say in his speeches, in one of the last things, what he used to quote from a great Greek philosopher, he used to say, unless philosopher is king, or king is a philosopher, the world will never be away from decay. This is what I just took up. I don't know, you can comment on this.
Yeah.
You need a vision, yeah.
Yeah. There was a period of about, they're called the Good Emperors. Marcus Aurelius was the last one. 2 centuries after BC or AC. And it's because you were just, the throne was inherited to the offspring or some other election method, but it wasn't the democratic process of rising to power. And so you had a relative period of relative peace for a long time, especially during that period. And it was because the king was a philosopher. And you had some unbelievable writings and societies and art and culture were promoted, by the way. That's the first thing that goes when authoritarian powers come in, is that they get rid of the art and culture, because that's how you convey so much more than words can. And you touch people's inner being with the performance, and it's less about the words. So yeah, there's been periods like that, and it raises a good question of how there's, objectively you could say there's an inclination to power that you need in order to want power that a more enlightened person may not have. But I think there will be authentic people that will feel called to be in leadership positions. We shouldn't get down on ourselves for that. And here and there, you can see different levels of awareness rise up, and we need the aware ones, more aware ones. There's no aware and unaware. It's always a question of degrees. We do our best to promote them, and that'll lead to better change. And there is something, having run companies, having been in that world, where you have to play along with the game as well. If you're a complete outsider and you show up and just want to shatter it all, you're also not going to help. But so you have to, smaller changes and be wise about it and form the right allegiances. And so it's a very tactful game up there. And so sometimes we feel disappointed when our person makes it to the top, but they have to both survive and do what they can to thrive as best possible. So it's not always so straightforward. We want change as humans. Any therapist will attest. They've been working with somebody for years to get them to the doorstep of their healing, and right when they just have to take the last step to truly change, they freeze and they don't take that step, because there's a comfort and an identity that's attached to the old self, and security and all that. So again, we don't, as humans, we don't flip from one moment to the next. That would be illogical, it would be unhealthy. We can't just change ourselves. We'd be too unstable. This nature needs a more gradual shift, moment by moment. And so we have to, I think, apply that type of patience and wisdom to all our processes, including the political ones.
I want to answer that, respond to that, See, to use the same language that he's using, there are levels of consciousness. See, we as humans organize themselves, we have always been organizing ourselves into some kind of society or community where there is a leader who imposes, by consulting or not by consulting, rules on everybody. We have to follow the rules. We all follow rules. If you have a higher level of consciousness where you can become a whistleblower, you don't agree with the regime, you're still what you feel uncomfortable, you just follow the rules. But you keep nudging, saying, this is not correct, this is not correct. You have to keep trying. But the danger is, if the king is not good, or the queen is not good, as is sometimes the case has been, then what happens is, the lowest levels of consciousness will follow literally what the queen wants. And then there is mayhem and cruelty and torture, tyranny in that society. But wherever the philosopher has been king, whether as a religious head or whatever, it doesn't matter, that we have had, like he says, periods of peace. In Islam, the first 3 caliphs, you should see, they're so glorified because they were so wise and, so humble and so oriented to the public good. So it is very uncomfortable if you do not have a leader, whom you can respect. It's very difficult. I agree with that.
Just a quick minute on a lighter note. There is one book that is matching Suresh's kurta and the one which is matching mine, and the other one absolutely having you on top. So would you like to take a minute to explain what those books are and how people interested can get to it and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, that was intentional. The color designs were meant to match everyone here. The Biyu was the first book that really, it's a celebration of life, of really how miraculous our existence is, and it takes the 50 most common challenges that we face and does a reframe on it to see that, yes, there's discomfort in our daily life, but it's meant to wake us up. Even in the conversation dealing with authorities that may go against our grain, there's a lesson in that, the acceptance of that, the patience of that. I always say patience is acceptance in motion, because you're having to prove acceptance over time. And so there's these lessons all around us, and so BU really kind of brings it back to this is a beautiful place, we're in a beautiful life, the bodies, whatever our circumstances are, they're bringing us everything we need so that we can really blossom. And we just have to see it that way. And that's not a mental exercise. It's a deeper realization that this is a miracle of life and an intelligent design that wants us to blossom and to grow and to be whole. Life is not annoying us because it's mean or for some other reason. It wants us to let go of our limiting beliefs. It wants us to feel our wholeness or to be ourselves fully. Everything around us is geared towards bringing that out in us. Then I realized people also want practical applications of that, journaling prompts and exercises. So the orange one is to, if you really want to not just read about it, but let that internalize that. So that's more of a workbook, and it summarizes. So you can buy both or just get one. It's if you like the hands-on thing, that's the orange one. Then the 5 levels of awareness were integrated in a lot of what we're saying today is just to recognize that life is not an on-off state. You're never enlightened and not enlightened. Your judgment is a very crude way of living, but rather to recognize every life stage, and I kind of broke it down into 5 obvious ones that occur to me over time, working with people and in my own experience. That you move from the 2 stage, level 1, life is happening to you, there's a sense of separateness and victimhood, and that creates suffering and a disconnect from self. To level 2, awareness is happening because of you, because of how we see things and interpret things. And so then again, from that place, a few cracks start to happen. You realize, well then, life is happening for me. I can use it as a mirror to become that whole person, to be authentic. And that's the phase of letting go of all your assigned beliefs, the blind behaviors. And of course that leads to a kind of a dark night of the soul experience from which you then emerge, so the rising of the phoenix, into a state of flow. There's still a sense of self, but you're now really level 4, you're in the flow. And once you let go of that little sense of self as well, then level 5 is unity consciousness. So it's a deep dive into both the ancient wisdom and how it blends with modern life, but also gives you a checklist of like, okay, many people start reading at level 3, which is interesting. And they think, yeah, I'm going to start at level 3, I'm level 3 awareness. And then they very quickly backtrack and realize, oh, okay, it's not just blanket statements, there's aspects of me that have big blind spots, and it's like a level 1 kind of thing. And so you start jumping around. The book is not meant to label, categorize, or judge yourself. It's meant to really break open all the stuckness that we have in ourselves to get a bigger picture of who we are and how to expand on that. There's a fourth book that's coming out in a month, so I hope to be back if permitted to promote that and talk about other wonderful aspects. It's been such a beautiful experience. Prakash here and everyone here. So thank you very much. If you want an autographed copy or whatever, just please come.
Thank you very much. Just want to close with a small story I went through a couple of years ago. This film festival in Kerala, the Trivandrum Film Festival, where most of us go, and the festival director Veena Paul, a lot of people know she was the director for almost 21 years of the festival. Once I'd gone and I went to say hello to her, and she said, "Great, you're here, that this," and she said at 5 o'clock, "I hope you're coming to the protest." I said, "What protest?" "The protest against the festival." I said, "You're the artistic director of the festival. Why are you telling me to go to the protest?" "Not you, I'm going to be at the protest, so you join me." I said, "I didn't understand, what is this?" I said, "See, there was a movie which was applied and the government said no. So the government runs the festival, so I had to accept it. But as an artist, I want to protest against that. So I'm going to be standing at the protest, so you join me." And I was like so amazed about this character of her, that she can play two roles, being in the same position. And it was something which I kind of thought when we're talking about how you identify yourself. So thank you very much for this conversation. I think it was wonderful, and applause from all of you. We have a light lunch, but before that, anybody wants to pick up a copy from Cirak, he's here. If you want to pick up a copy of the book which Prakash read at the beginning of this talk, Sanjay is here, the copies are here, so you can do that also. But please join us for lunch after this, so you can also talk to them if you want, just to have more clarity on your thoughts. And thank you very much again for having this. And we have a small token of appreciation for the speakers, because Sanjay too.
More of a green memento.
Yeah.
And I should say that these are sponsored by my wife.
Thank you everyone. Please join us for lunch. Thank you.
With its other friends. Why?